Very good morning to you. My name is Malcolm Graham Wood, and yet again it's my pleasure to be doing a CEO interview here on TIP TV. Today my guest is Graham Stewart, who is the CEO of Faroe Petroleum, and I've been wanting to get Graham into the studio for a long time. So very good morning, Graham.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming in. As usual, what I'd like to do to start with, in case anyone is unfamiliar with Faroe, is maybe you could give us a sort of broad brush summary of what the company does, and then we'll dig in some detail after that.
Great. Well, thanks for inviting me. What Faroe is about, we're an independent E&P player, exploration production player, focused on the North Sea. We're listed on AIM. We've been in this area for quite some time now, so we're quite an established player. We've built a diverse portfolio of assets, all the way from exploration through development and into production. We're a company that's well funded. We've managed our balance sheet very carefully, and I've managed to navigate our way through these troubled times of low oil prices quite successfully. We are an operator of production. We're an operator of exploration, and we're a leader among explorers, and have had a very successful history in finding oil and gas in both UK and Norway.
Excellent. I mean, your recent history has been one of consistent exploration success, growing reserves and production. How have the last 2 or 3 years in particular been? What's it been like? I'm trying to continue to do that through the difficult times of the oil price collapse.
Well, exploration has always been a central part of our business, and it's what we're particularly good at. Our main focus has been on near field exploration, although we still explore in frontier areas to a lesser degree. And we've managed to maintain over this past 2-3 year period a high level of activity in exploration, to maintain that exposure to the upside that exploration can deliver, and has consistently delivered for us. And of course we benefit being particularly focused on exploration in Norway. Currently we're not exploring in the UK, but we are exploring in Norway exclusively, and that is partly because of it's a combination of things. It's the opportunity set in Norway. Norway has a massive potential to find much more oil and gas, and they offer regular annual license rounds, but most interestingly, they support and encourage exploration through the 78%, as it is, tax incentive. So we benefit from that, which means that for every pound that we spend, the Norwegian state actually pays 78 pence of that pound. And that allows us to do a great deal more in good or bad times.
Yep.
And of course we benefited in this fallen oil price environment that we're in from much lower costs, and so our exploration program has benefited. The cost has come down. We've been able to do more even through these challenging times. But having maintained a strong balance sheet throughout, before and during this time of low oil price, it's put us in a great position to maintain the momentum that we've had, the forward momentum in growing reserves through acquisition and maturing our discoveries towards development as well. So it's
been a great success story. So let's have a look at one of not including DON, which we'll come back to in a minute, but I'd like to have a look at one or two of your key assets. So why don't you run us through what you might call your sort of top of the portfolio of assets?
Well, a few years ago we made a discovery in Norway, quite a big discovery. We had a sizable stake in it, and we actually swapped from that discovery straight into production in a transaction that was quite unique. It's the first and only, I think, similar transaction in Norway. And that delivered for us interests in 3 particular good assets. They're the Njord, Brage and Ringhorn East assets in Norway. They're all producing assets, all operated by strong operators, and those remain today the foundation pillars, if you like, of our production portfolio. They all continue to have a very strong future ahead of them. And these are, I guess, the assets that provide the principal cash flow, the debt capacity that we rely on as well, and also some of the upside that we're pursuing in our exploration program, particularly around Brage, Njord area.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to have a good look at the Dong acquisition because it looks, from an operational and a financial point of view, and every time I look at it and talk to you guys about it, it seems to get better every time we look at it. So let's have talk us through why you did it, what it brings you into the portfolio, and how it might be financially slightly different from what it was when you first looked at it.
Right. Well, yes, indeed. Well, the Dong acquisition, Danish oil and natural gas company, they've recently actually become a listed company, a green energy company, and took the decision some time ago to change their portfolio mix and to exit upstream or parts of upstream. And now I think that's been made public that they actually intend to exit the entire upstream. So we were able to get involved in that process, and what we've done is agreed to acquire certain assets, Norwegian operated assets from them, both gas and oil, four fields. We agreed this earlier this year. What that means is we will, with these assets, more or less double our production. It's all Norway, all from Norway.
Yep.
It'll double production, it will increase our debt capacity, and it will provide a lot of additional upside, of value upside, that we will unlock through various different routes, including investment in infill wells and gas lift wells, and a number of other opportunities that we see. But what I think allowed us to do that, apart from having the balance sheet strength to contemplate a deal in this present market, was the fact that we're actually an established operator, production operator in the UK. And the company therefore operates systems, or has systems that allows us to operate to the satisfaction of our partners and the authorities. And that was a key ingredient in us being able to do this deal with Don.
Yeah. So having looked at the asset base, I'd like to have a look at your production, because you have a sort of stated policy or plan to treble production over the next, to 40 to 50,000 barrels a day over the next 5 years. How do you see this coming, and where do you see it coming from? And you're obviously confident in it.
Indeed, it's an ambitious target, but it's one that is within our grasp. The assets that we have are all of a high quality. We have a producing base which has the potential to grow in size from those existing fields alone. But the additional production, in principle, will come from new field developments, fields that we've discovered. They're all fields that we've discovered. So they're if you like, a result of our successful exploration program that has then matured to become development projects. And over the next 2-3 years, we will bring these projects to a point where they'll be under development. We're about to make our first development decision in the next few weeks, and another development decision in the first half of next year. So it's a plan that is unfolding. And we own the equities, we own the interest in these assets today. They're not assets we need to buy. So we're confident we can deliver this. And of course, the important part of it is that all of these assets are of a high quality reservoir, high quality operators, and relatively simple development projects, which don't bring with them the challenges of execution risk that has worried the market in the past.
And 40 to 50,000 barrels a day would make you one of the biggest players in the North Sea. Obviously, there are players in the North Sea that have international assets, but that would be very positive. You recently took a group of analysts to Bergen in Norway to see the Njord A platform, which is actually going into dry dock, which is where it's going to stay till 2020, I think. How will this affect the portfolio and the production estimates? Because it must take a fair chunk out of the production for the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, it does certainly take some of that production out, but it's a manageable portion. And of course, this recent Dong acquisition helps to compensate for that quite significantly. And the other investments we're making elsewhere will improve production further. So I don't think we'll feel a significant difference. But of course, when the Njord facility comes back out again, production will go up very significantly at that point. And so we look forward to that. And I think everything that comes with that refurbishment of that facility and the bringing together of most likely 3 additional fields across that facility. That will really boost production.
I mean, as always, you've always got some exciting exploration and appraisal wells coming up. What have you got coming up in the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, we're preparing to spud the next well around the end of the year. It's called Dazzler.
Dazzler.
Dazzler, up in the Barents Sea. This will be operated by ENI.
Yeah.
ENI's had a great track record of exploration success in the Barents Sea. We hold a 20% stake in that, and it's a very large prospect. If it's successful, that would be a real bonus for us. And of course, the fact that we have this 78% cost rebate under the Norwegian fiscal incentive means that the actual cost exposure of our participation in that is really quite limited. It's probably going to be around £2 million, that kind of number, net to Faroe. Into next year, we will have, at the moment it's uncertain exactly what the format will be for next year, partly because we're still deciding on, for example, the Brasa appraisal well, the appraisal of a discovery we announced this year, a very large discovery, Brasa next to one of our existing assets, the Braga field. We're considering whether to drill an appraisal well on that, and there are a couple of other wells. Now, partly it's because of partner budget constraints, and of course, not everyone has a strong balance sheet today. There are many companies who are strained in their balance sheets, and exploration can sometimes be a victim of those constraints. So we just have to look to work with our partners to see what we can deliver next year. But we certainly have a strong appetite and a healthy budget for next year's exploration and beyond.
I mean, industry costs have come down a lot, obviously. Do you still see them coming down, or are they flattening out a bit at the moment?
Well, they certainly have come down. To give you an example, one of the rigs that we used a couple of years ago, the cost of that rig today on a day rate is about 25% of what it was just over 2 years ago. So you can benefit directly from what is happening in the market. The supply-demand balance is really working in our favour today. But it is a case of ensuring that your partners can avail themselves of that opportunity as well, so that the wells are actually drilled, and we can use this rig, this relatively cheap rig time.
You said that you've been recently exclusively in Norway.
Yeah.
But might you come back into the North Sea, the UK section of the North Sea, if the opportunity arose?
Well, absolutely. Well, I say that we're only exploring in Norway, and that is true. But we're actually producing in the UK. We're in a number of fields in the UK. We operate 2 gas fields in the southern North Sea, Schooner and Ketch. We're in the Blaine field, which produces into one of our hubs, which is the Ulla hub. And I didn't mention the change of the company's strategy to actually pursue a hub strategy. But we have the Blaine field, which produces into Ulla, and then we have East Foynhaven, which produces into Foynhaven, west of Shetland. So we have a base here of production, but we do plan to grow it. So we have an initiative underway now to look very, very hard at finding high-quality assets that we may be able to acquire and add to the UK portfolio, because there are synergies, there are tax synergies that we'd like to take advantage of as well. In the UK, and the opportunity set is there, and I think the competition that we see in the market is far more limited than it's been probably any other time in my career, I would say, and it's really driven by the lack of capital that we see among many of the traditional players.
You mentioned earlier on you had a strong balance sheet. You came into the price downturn having just done a raise, and you raised money when you made the DON acquisition. How does the balance sheet look, and what's your flexibility on funding at the moment?
Well, the balance sheet looks very good. We have a very strong cash position, over £100 million cash. We have no debt at all. We're in the process of amending and extending our existing reserve-based lending facility with the banks, and that's coming together most likely before Christmas. That will give us access to debt through the banks on a relatively long-term basis. We're looking at a 7-year facility. And this is capacity that will allow us to fund the program going forward. We have quite an ambitious program in both development and in-field investments, as well as exploration going forward. So very, I think we're certainly confident that we'll be able to deliver that from our balance sheet. And of course, throughout, it's been one of the foundations of the company is to ensure that we have a strong balance sheet at all times.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there's no excuse for not having a strong balance sheet. And now is when we can really put it to good use.
Yeah. And you pride yourselves on being good explorers, as I said. It's in the sort of company DNA. You're famously explorers and developers. And you mentioned being an operator. But historically, you know, are you happy to be operators for the longer term in the big place, which is?
Absolutely, and interestingly, in Norway, with the DON acquisition, we'll be taking on a team of around 13, 14 people from DON who'll join us in our Stavanger office, and that will give us a new capability, which is interesting in that it is a development capability.
Yeah.
We haven't had that before, although we've all worked in development projects in the past. As Faroe has not had that capability, we now do have that capability. And that will allow us to take projects such as our new Brasa discovery much further forward, and indeed contemplate operatorship of a development as well, given that that's a subsea development. It's the much simpler end of any developments. So I think, you know, we're embracing this opportunity set that we have by becoming an operator of production, exploration, production, and potentially now development going forward, to realise much greater value than might otherwise be the case.
Indeed. I mean, funny enough, you mentioned about the DON acquisition. Since you made that acquisition, they've actually come out and said that they're coming out of the industry altogether in that respect. Is there anything more in that portfolio, or is there?
Well, there certainly is. I mean, DON has built up over many years a very strong portfolio. It's quite a large portfolio, and I think, you know, it ranks among the best that is out there. Of course, we're looking at a number of other opportunities as well, and there are many. We're aware that there are several companies looking to sell out of both UK and Norway, and it's in some cases they're finding it hard to actually find a buyer. And I think that puts us in a strong position. The fact that we have the capital, the fact that we're established, the fact that we're an operator, I think it puts us in a good position to contemplate some of those opportunities.
It's good to be in that strong position. The time has flown by. What I'd like to do is, just before we go, is for you to just give me an idea of your sort of vision for Faroe for the slightly longer term, how you see it as a company growing. You've got to such a strong position through your exploration DNA. Now, give me a quick vision of where you see Faroe for the longer term. Sure.
Well, we're AIM listed today. We're the company on AIM that has greatest exposure to Norway. We really have a substantial exposure to Norway, and we've demonstrated that we can build that. The trust is there in us to continue to grow. So the opportunity is there for us to become a really substantial player. And that is our objective, is to become the leading pan-North Sea. So that's not just Norway, the pan-North Sea independent E&P player. And that will come through organic growth, and it will also come through acquisition. And we're pursuing both of those angles. So the ambition is there, and we believe strongly that we can achieve it. And I think that the market opportunity is like I've never seen before. And I find it really exciting.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck. Graham Stewart, CEO of Faroe Petroleum, thank you so much for coming in, being my latest victim. Thank you very much. This has been Tip TV CEO Interviews. See you later.